Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the very first Teen Summit being supported by Making a Grade A Plus and RayPay Incorporated. Making a Grade is an academic enrichment organization that provides tutoring for students K through 12, as well as RayPay Incorporated is an organization, nonprofit, that actually supports young ladies in STEM and STEAM. We want to say welcome to all our guests in the mall. Feel free to stop by, have a seat, and join us. But before we get started, I wanted to introduce a very, very important person in our community. I want to bring forth to you at this time Mr. Emmett V. Jordan, the mayor in the city of Greenbelt. Emmett Jordan, go ahead, you can do the claps. Thank you for being here, Mr. Jordan. Emmett joined as a member of the Greenbelt City Council, and he currently serves as mayor. He's been a member of the City Council since 2009. A Greenbelt resident for 17 years, Emmett relocated to the area to work at the University of Maryland in 1998. In 2009, he became the first African American elected to the Greenbelt City Council in the city's 74-year history. I present to you Mayor Emmett Jordan.
Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. Welcome to the city of Greenbelt. It's such a pleasure and an honor to have you here. It's great to be here in Beltway Plaza. And we're grateful to Quantum and Beltway Plaza for hosting this event. Thank you to Janubi and Mr. Capstan and the Beltway Plaza. But mostly, I just like to kind of say a couple of words and welcome you here on behalf of the Greenbelt City Council and all of the residents and citizens of Greenbelt. When you talk about being a teenager, it's been a couple of years since I was a teenager. Not that long, but it has been a few years. So we've got a distinguished panel that Helen Ballard has pulled together to actually talk about some of the issues that are facing young folks in Greenbelt, in Prince George's County, throughout the state of Maryland, and throughout the country. So these issues, last night I was watching television, I was watching the presidential debate, and I heard these candidates talking about the issues, and a lot of the talk was about youth and young people. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize my personal belief that young people are the future of this country and the future of the city. So what has to happen? We have to find a way to help the youth, the leaders of tomorrow, to actually take control, because the future is theirs. They are the ones that will be taking care of us as we move forward. So on behalf of all the members of the Greenbelt City Council, thank you for coming out tonight. We've got a really, really distinguished panel, and I know so many of these people from various organizations, and let me just read off the names. We've got Juan Blocker, who is actually a student at Parkdale High School, and also a very, very politically active young man. Dominique Flowers, Jamela Kemp, Felicia Meadows, Steve Price, he'll be here in a couple of minutes, and David Smith. So we've got people from all walks of life involved with public safety, involved with education, involved with families. So I'm looking forward to a really, really interesting discussion. But I just want to take a moment to really thank Helen Ballard and Making the Grade A Plus for pulling this together. I know Helen has been active working in education and trying to bring people together around literacy. So to actually take the initiative to pull this program together, it's really, really important. So please, pull up your chairs a little bit, relax, maybe have a bite to eat from Jersey Mike's. Enjoy the surroundings here at Beltway Plaza. But thank you, Helen, for pulling this together. It's just an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
So at this time right now, I just wanted to share some of my feelings about what is this summit and what does it really mean. When we think about Wall Street, we think about Wall Street as being a place where performance speaks louder than words. According to Tony Robbins, an author of the book, Secrets of the World's of the Greatest Financial Minds, there's no empirical basis to show that one form of management is more effective. Only time will tell, but we need to know. Because guess what? Our students are our next leaders. They need to know, how do we actually get out there and make them feel important about their ideas, about their initiatives, and about their entrepreneurship to become leaders. You may ask how? I really don't have the mindset training other than to say, as a teacher, I know the students that I saw, I know the parents that I knew, and I know the actual class environment, and how much all of that comes in connection in order for us to be able to create the leaders that we need to have. But what I do know is that we do have the ability to instill in our youth morality, integrity, compassion, and finally, accountability. So with all of that said, the purpose for this summit is to make our youth have a feeling that they have a part of something, that they can speak out on it, and that their voices are being heard, and that we actually are concerned about what they're feeling. So based on that, I want to thank everyone who has come, and we're going to continue with our program, and we will have Q&A sessions shortly thereafter. So at this time, it gives me the greatest pleasure of pleasures to introduce a young man who has been really working hard on his music career. I'd like to introduce to you Helen Ballard.
So my mother told me about writing this poem for the longest now. And between me and you, I just finished it this morning. Okay? There's a little bit of procrastination going on there. But the poem is called Why Not? Why live? Why live when every time I turn on the news, positivity seems like a distant memory? Why live abundantly when the temptation and doubt is breathing in front of me? Why live as if nothing is bothering me, watching my dreams dwindle from under me? Why live when I see my potential equivalent to the size of a mustard seed? I mean, honestly, why live if subconsciously every decision ends with an apology? Why should I live when nobody understands my pain and my thoughts and my emotions don't line up properly? Commonly, my inner prophecy is not being watered consistently, so the nourishment to my soul is falling awkwardly. So why live? Looking into my eyes in the mirror, showing a mirror reflection of who I do not want to be. I mean, it's not like I can fly, or can I? So why die? Why die inside with other people's lives who live in disguise to their own surprise? Why die when deep inside lies greatness with value far greater than the first place prize? Why die when my everyday life experiences is the reality of my story unfolding right before my eyes? Why should I die when my higher mind is consistently showing reasons why I'm different from these guys? Why would I die when the goals in my mind were meant to be overcome instead of blind by design? Why die when wiping crust out my eyes and hopping out the bed is a daily reminder I'm still alive? Why would I die just to realize there's no limits to success, with the knife in my hand cutting sweet slices of humble pie? Why should I die for not following through on the very reasons to keep me on the rise? Why? Would my mind, body, and spirit hold the power of manifesting any success of any size? I strive, I prosper, I'm alive. Now I have a secret, and although it might not be much of a secret, it's hard for me to keep it. Reality doesn't dictate who I am, or maybe it does. Maybe our everyday reality is life's way of saying, this is what you wanted. Maybe our thoughts and emotions shape our circumstances on our road to abundance. Maybe if we focused on the things that make us feel good, negativity would be redundant. Maybe if we cherished every situation in life, we would love it. Maybe if we stopped complaining about what we don't want and think about everything that we can have, we would quickly realize that it was always there for us. I love it. I breathe it. I admit, and it is me. They often ask, why are you making it seem like everything bad in life is not taking place as we speak? and nothing but good has surrounded you? My reply is, why not? That's what a morning's day of work will do for you.
Thank you, Gerard. That was an awesome job. I really do appreciate you participating with us today. And as you parents know, you get your kids to do stuff for you. You got to pull teeth. You got to make promises. You got to come up with all kind of creative things in order for things to take place. But on a good note, they did. So at this time, we're going to move on with our program. We did get a little bit of a late start. We were dealing with some inclement predictions, and thank goodness they have not arose. So I am so grateful for my panelists to be here. So what we're going to do is we have some questions that we have, and there is a microphone that is to my left, your right, and we have the panelists here that will talk about various things. If you have a program, you can read and see specifically the area that the panelists are experts in. And most importantly, we do have our Prince George's County Police Department here. We wanted to make sure that we're going to find positive solutions to the situations that we find that are occurring in our communities. And there are opportunities that they want to express with you to let you know that you can do different things as well, so that we can make sure that everybody is feeling pride in their community, in their schools, in their neighborhoods. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first question. And we had a question that was posed because some of the questions are actually coming from a survey that we did prior to the summit to try to get the feel for what it is that the students wanted to actually know. And the first question was, what are your thoughts on the recent outburst of violence on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram? Panelists, who would like to take care of that question?
Okay, I'm not sure that it's recent. I think violence has been happening for quite some time, but because social media is taking off, it's the actual platform. The violence has always been there. Unfortunately, people or young people think it's okay to share the fight videos, and they think it's cute, and it's a form of cyberbullying. And we need to just simply have a conversation with our young people. For one, there are other ways to handle your discrepancies with other people outside of violence. And two, they have to be the voice to stop sharing those types of things. We as adults can tell ourselves to stop sharing it, and we do it as well on social media, unfortunately. But if we as adults can stand up and let them know that this is not the right way to solve this, and give them, like Helen said, some positive reinforcements of how to handle those type of situations, we can stop this from being on social media, and we can start to flood it with more positive things that our young people are doing, because they're doing some amazing things. So we have to step up and we have to guide them and give them instruction on how to handle social media.
Thank you, Jamila. David, would you like to elaborate on that as well?
By being in the school system and watching, our youth, they put this stuff out there, and we've seen it in some of our schools that have gone across the news where outbreaks in, the high schools where there's violence and stuff, and they're posting that stuff, and they don't realize that it's a bad exposure on them as well as their, parents and the community. So, I mean, we really have to, it is a form of bullying, as Jamila said, that, it's just a cyber way of targeting people. And a lot of times, even on the Facebook and all that stuff, people are harassing people and they don't even realize that they're, targeting somebody. So.
I just wanted to add, I was going to say the same thing Jamila said, that it's not recent, it's just more prevalent because social media is more prevalent. And one thing that I tend to see, the reason why a lot of our babies are presenting the way they do is because adults behave badly as well. So if they're watching, I laugh with my students all the time because I don't watch these shows, but the Love and Hip Hop where everybody's fighting, or the Real Housewives where everyone's catty, and they're seeing adults behave in this manner, they think it's okay for them to behave that way. So we need to set the example and let them know it's not okay. Additionally, I also talk to my students, I explain to them, anything you record and put out there stays out there. So the fight that you recorded and you think it's funny and you're laughing, that's assault. So when parents or someone wants to press charge, they take it to the police, that's an assault charge. And a lot of them don't understand that. So we need to make them aware that it's not just hee ha, they're fighting, it's funny. It's serious and has serious consequences as well.
And I just want to add on. I just wanted to add on to that. Let me start off by saying good evening, everyone, and thanking everyone for being able to make it out this evening. So I'm actually a student, as Mayor Jordan mentioned earlier. I'm a student at Parkdale High School, and I am a junior. So I have, as well as everyone else, I have direct pull, if you will, or directly affected by what my fellow colleagues or peers do. And I strongly agree with the rest of the panelists on the panel. I believe that it's also about finding different outlets and different options for young people. I believe that the reason why a lot of my peers or colleagues post these videos is because they think that it's going to make them Twitter famous or Facebook famous or Snapchat famous. And I really think that it works both ways. So I believe that we need to have more conversations like we're having today, and having positive people reach out to our young people in order to get them involved and engaged, as well as having other youth leaders being involved and engaged, and also trying to inform their fellow peers, and not necessarily inform them, but have a conversation with them, a one-on-one conversation, to let them know that, look, this is, posting inappropriate videos or fight videos is not good at all, and it just makes yourself look bad, and it makes us as a generation look bad. And I believe that with our continued partnership and having more youth leaders speak, directly to the young people, a peer-to-peer thing, then the message will get through a lot clearer. I'm very optimistic, I will say that, and I know that if we continue to have events like this and try to increase the youth turnout and go directly to youth, my fellow peers, and I think that we'll be one step in the right direction.
Thank you, Juwan. Any other panelists want to chime in on that one?
Good evening, everybody. It's kind of late. My name is Stephen Price. I'm an Amen High, former membership director. It has been my experience dealing with young folks that it seems to be a kind of identity crisis. That young folks are using this medium as a way of reaching out because they don't really know who they are. And I'm really big on our roots and where we're from. And I think if more parents and more of us old heads, so to speak, go back and teach our young folks who they are, that social media wouldn't be a medium, a platform where they can show so much negativity, and that therefore that we can bring that kind of back to us and make young folk realize that, hey, you are somebody, and that you don't have to create negativity to get attention, that you can get attention by using positivity. And I think the more we do that, the more we reinforce that, the more young people will get that notion and understand it, and that's been my experience.
Certainly in Prince George's County, there have been times where we've had these sort of viral videos or viral social media related events, and I think many times they're shared or reposted in a way that sort of glorifies the bullying or the assault. And I think people lose sight of the fact that the victim in that case or those cases is often victimized multiple times over. I think it's very easy for our young people to lose sight of the fact that there is a victim involved there. And certainly in times past where we have made an arrest in a video where we've seen someone being assaulted, people recognize that there's an arrest made, but they do lose sight of the fact that the victim involved has actually been victimized more than once, and now they're the target of some derision or sort of a scandalous view from their peers, either in their school or in their environment. So, and I think one of the reasons that the young people, because we also get feedback from some young people that go, hey, I didn't think that was right, or I wish they hadn't posted that. But there's a fear that if you're the one who's going to stand up, that the sort of collective eye of the people who are posting that are then going to turn on you. So I think collectively, events like this, we hope, will encourage young people to stand up for the victims in these cases.
Thank you so much, Major Alexander. And I think the panelists really did bring forth some really good key things that we really need to keep in mind with in terms of us, how we're approaching our youth, how we're helping them to understand. And as an educationalist, I know often when I was actually the dean of the students, most often, as Major Alexander has stated and some of the other panelists, that it is a repeated act. And because of this repeated act, these students are constantly getting bullied over and over again, and so therefore they build up a certain resistance, and then, like anyone else, they're just going to explode at some point. So I think that we do need to make sure that we focus on about how much social media that we really want our students to actually have involvement with. Okay, the next question that came up was dealing with the discrepancies. We know that recently we've been having a lot of discrepancies with our law enforcement. We've had some horror stories. I've had a horror story, and we want to make sure that we want to come up with positive solutions and ways in which we can interact with our law enforcement, because we know that there are some, just like anything else, that there are individuals out here who will take advantage of their authority and use it in not such a pleasant way. But then you have those that will use it in a pleasant way and are there to help. When I grew up, it was a time that if you ever had a question or you had a fear and you saw someone from law enforcement, you were able to walk up to that person and say, "Excuse me, officer, I'm kind of lost. Can you tell me where to go?" Not so long ago, I was lost. And I went to an officer and I went to ask where to go. And I was pretty much shot in the foot. He questioned me as if I had a problem. And I really didn't know, but I thought to myself, as an adult, I felt kind of weird with that. So what would a teenager feel like if they think in their mind that they want to go to law enforcement, to be able to speak to them in a positive way, to get the help that they're looking for, but in essence, they were rejected? Major Alexander, could you kind of elaborate on that?
Sure. I don't think there's any question that police departments across this country, certainly major police departments, have recognized that there is, at minimum, a perception among communities, particularly minority communities, that there is a disconnect between law enforcement and the communities they serve. I find myself privileged to work in Prince George's County, where I think we're leading the nation, creating and following best practices, which is not to say we're perfect by any stretch, but I think we've made huge, huge strides, particularly over the last 5 or 6 years since County Executive Baker came on board. I will say one of the indicators that I look at as a commander of a station is how are we doing on citizen complaints? In other words, how many officers are actually being complained on by the citizens? And I'll tell you that since 2010, crime in Prince George's County has dropped by almost 50%, which I think if I had told you in 2010 Chief McGaw and now Chief Stawinski is going to drop crime by 50%, I would have been laughed out of the room. And in that same time period, citizen complaints from the community have actually also dropped by 50%. And to give you an idea of the number of complaints that we have, I actually, in my previous assignment, I was in Internal Affairs. In 2015, we had about 89 citizen complaints, legitimate complaints saying that the police officer did something either against the law or improper against our policies. And that's 89 complaints out of about 1 million calls for service in 1 year. So we average about 3,000 calls for service a day. We handle about 125 calls per hour. So in about half an hour, we made some number of community contacts that didn't go perfectly, or at least the citizen didn't feel like they went perfectly, and for the remainder of the year, we were essentially perfect. Now, I know some of you all in the audience will rightly point out, much as teachers would in their classrooms, for every person who raises their hand and has a question, there might be 10 more sitting there with the same question. So if you were to apply that to Prince George's County, and I think most citizens, if they actually feel like they've been victimized by the police, would actually report. But let's just say, conservatively, that instead of 89, we had 800 complaints. We are still, I think, moving in the right direction. Now, are we perfect? No. Do we have room to improve? Absolutely. But I think if you look at our statistics and the way we've interacted and interfaced with our community, particularly under Chief McGaw, every facet of our police department is engaged with the community. We are trying to engage with the community. I think we lead the nation in our transparency with our media relations division. Anytime an officer is charged with anything on our department, we proactively say something to our community, compared to some of the other departments in the region who don't necessarily hide it, but they don't advertise it. So I'm sure someone here in the crowd may have a different story and a different thought, and obviously I'd love to get some feedback, but we as a department look at these kinds of conversations as opportunities to improve. Much like your son was saying, instead of complaining, we're hoping that instead of telling us what are we doing wrong, we hope you will tell us how we can do what we're doing better.
Thank you so much. Dominique?
Good evening, everybody. Unless you've been hiding under a rock, we've all seen the media enticements of police shootings and a national trend that we think this problem is something recent, but it's really, the mentality of this disconnect that the major was talking about has been a trend that has existed for a long time between African American youth, or youth in general, and the police department. And you know what? It's not the police department's fault, it's not our fault, it's not the youth's fault. It's a mentality from the culture that our youth have been growing up in. They've been taught to hate the police department, they've been taught that all police officers hate youth, and in some sense, some police officers have been taught that youth are against them. And so, when you see all this negativity, especially in the news, is there any wonder that our youth have this sentiment, have this interaction between police officers that they've encountered? Even if it's not been negative, they have this "they're out to get me" attitude. One thing we need to do is we need to show our youth the positive side of policing. I mean, there are plenty of programs out there. National Night Out is a program that's sponsored once a year in every jurisdiction in the country, where the police officers come out into the community and engage with them and show them different functions and different aspects of the police department that are here to help the community. I know for Prince George's County, they have Citizens Police Academy, which I'm a graduate of, and that brings community volunteers into local police departments where they teach them not necessarily how to be police officers, but some of their best practices that they use and they deploy when they go into the community. So we need to show our youth some of the positive aspects of the police department instead of all the negative that you see on TV. I mean, there are a few bad apples, of course, but the majority of our police department, our officers, are law-abiding, upstanding, and they're here to take care of the community and serve. And we need to make sure we enforce that.
Stephen?
I just want to add, I want to congratulate the Prince George's County Police Officer Department, because as men named Hire, we have feverishly worked with them over since 2009, since we've been in inception. And talking about wonderful officers that we've worked with, let me tell you folks, incredible. And if you are a young person and you've had a negative experience, come and join Men Navy Hire. We'll show you the wonderful officers that are working in the community every day, who are working with us every day to make our community a wonderful place. And you will see the difference. So I just wanted to add that, because we have nothing but great experiences with working with Prince George's County police officers. When we have called on them, they have come to our events, they have supported us. If we need some resources, they've been there for us. And they've never asked us anything. So when we went into Central High School about a couple of years ago, the chief asked us to go in to help Central High School with the problem they had. They were there working with us every single day. So I have nothing but good things to say about the Prince George's County Police Department.
Thank you for that compliment. We do have a guest that is at the mic, Mrs. Adrienne Harrod, President of Phi Delta Kappa, which is a teachers organization from American University. Please present your question.
Thank you. I do appreciate the topic, the question now, because it brought to mind when I was teaching in DC. I'm retired now, but when I was teaching, we had the officer-friendly program in the schools where we had police come to schools and talk to groups, talk to the students, and sometimes have presentations. And there was even a time when they had a singing group that they would go around to the schools. It was delightful. And I was wondering, is that sort of thing still in existence?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your question. Actually, some of my peers are here over to the left. They're community police officers, and the community police officers do, in fact, still go to schools and talk with children. Of course, I'm talking mostly about the elementary school age children. Each high school in Prince George's County is assigned a school resource officer, which accomplishes some of the functions that you're asking about, in addition to providing security at the school level. So we do try to interface with our youth. There are a number of different programs across our county organization that try to find ways to connect with our youth, such as badges for baseball. I was just talking with Corporal Taylor about a previous program he did where he tried to connect kids with soccer. We do an annual Toys for Tots events. There's a Cora Rice Christmas school party. There's a whole string of things. I don't want to keep you here all night, but we do try to find ways to connect with and interface with our youth, and certainly the community officers still do go to schools and talk with our kids.
Thank you.
And I just want to add on top of that. So one of the, one of the things that I'm big on is looking at not only the problem with the prison industrial complex, but also looking at some of the solutions to address this issue. So what I will start off by saying is that everything in some way, shape, or form is connected. And as a young person, dealing with police officers and police encounters, one of the things that I think that we need to try to look for are solutions or to have programs that prevent youth or young people from getting involved with the prison industrial complex. I actually had the opportunity to speak with another official with the police department at another forum, and it was dealing with African Americans and dealing with law enforcement officials. And one of the things that was mentioned was the fact that there is an Explorers program which basically has young people work side by side with police officers so that they can get an experience of what the police officer life is like. I happen to be one of the students who actually tried out the program, but one of the things that I really think that we need to look at are ways to get students involved and engaged who are not here at these events, or who are not students who are going to sit, or who are going to be willing to sit on a panel or be willing to be in an Explorers program. We need to make sure that we're not only reaching the students who are more inclined to be involved and engaged and be on panels like this. We also need to look at students who may not be doing well academically, and those students who are not speaking up, and those students who are not being involved and engaged, because those are the students who we definitely look out for. So I would love to work with you on finding measures, and even if it's possible, have some police officers come out to schools and meet with some of these students, not just the students, who want to be involved and engaged in these panels, but reaching out to everyone, because again, everything is connected in some shape or form.
Thank you, Juan. That was excellent. I want to take the opportunity to do a big shout out right about now. And I have one of my dear friends who has always been by my side whenever I try to do anything in the community. He is always so gracious to make sure that my voice is heard over the waves. I want to welcome Mr. Bobby Gales from WHUR. Thanks for coming out, Bobby. How are you? Come on in. It's good to see you, Mr. Gales. How have you been?
I'm good. Good evening, everyone. How are you? Come on, you can do better than that, right? How's everybody doing? You want to give this panel another round of applause for their knowledge and what they're giving back. And it's all about giving back to the community. It's all about taking care of our youth and making sure they're prepared for the future. And every time I talk to young people, I always talk to them about having vision. And it's very important, because you can have all the education in the world, you can have all the great mentors like you have here on the table, but if you don't have vision to see what you want to do in life, it doesn't mean nothing. You have to have vision to be able to see what you want to become. Each of us on this table here had a vision as to what we wanted to do in life, and you had to set it up. So you have a short-term vision, you have a long-term vision, but you have to be able to see what you're going to do and visualize it. And I think that's what helps our young people succeed in life, so they have a positive vision of what they want to accomplish. So I just want to thank Helen for doing what she does. She's a hard worker. She puts things together, and give her another round of applause, because she's always putting it down. And I want to thank y'all for just letting me take this 2 minutes here to say hello and thanks again. So God bless y'all all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bobby. That was wonderful. So I want to get to the next question that was posed when we actually did our questions for the surveys that we had. And this is pretty astounding, and I don't really want to make it seem that the total night is focused on law enforcement. However, the things that are happening with our youth is really taking them into another arena of what we're really used to seeing, meaning that they're doing things that we aren't familiar with. So on the average, we did a statistical survey and found out that the average 18-year-old will have witnessed 200,000 acts of violence and 16,000 murders. That's a lot. When I was coming up, you would never see any of that. The biggest thing that we did is that we might have fought our best friend and then we were friends 5 minutes later after the fight. But now our situation is that our youth are fighting for the kill. Do they really understand that that person is not coming back again? Do they really understand that they now have set themselves up for life of incarceration? I'm wondering really, what do the youth feel when they do these things or they see these things happening? Is it coming from what they see on television? Is it coming from what they see in their homes? These are questions that we really were trying to find answers to. So is there a panelist who wants to give a suggestion as to what it could be?
Yes. So let me start off again by saying, this question is really interesting and it's close to heart. I'm very passionate, again, about looking for solutions to address this issue. Me personally, when I see an act of violence or aggression, me personally, the first thing that I look at the media. I look at the music that's being portrayed, or over and over again, and I look at a lot of these so-called celebrities who are benefiting off of talking about violence and crime, which is really having a negative effect or impact on a lot of our young people. So one of the things that I start looking at is the fact that as a young person, as young people, we're still developing, our brains are still developing. But one of the things that I get sick and tired of is having to cut on the 95.5 or whatever the radio station might be, and then all I hear is, entertainers, so-called entertainers talking B-word this, B-word that, shoot 'em up this, shoot 'em up that, this and that. And one of the things that we have to realize is the fact that, say that you're a student who may not necessarily agree with what this person is talking about. The fact that it's played over and over again, and it seems as if you can't get away from it because you can't, because no matter what you're doing, you're always going to hear the same thing over and over again. After a while, it just starts to really become a mental issue, and I believe that there are a lot of entertainers who who have a bully pulpit, but I don't think they're using it, for the purposes of good. I think that they're using it for the purposes which is not beneficial to the young people. I believe that if we had more inspirational rappers or singers for the most part who actually encourage young people to get out to do something positive, and that was played over and over again, that could drive some of the violence and things that we are hearing. And me personally, I think that some of the stuff that we're hearing on the radio and news is done purposely for a lot of these young people, and not only young people but adults, to act the ways that they do. Thanks.
We have a question.
I was just going to say that I'm 24. I was just going to
Bless
say
your heart.
that when I was growing up, video games were such a big thing, but now I feel like video games has taken away the feeling of real life because they're so realistic and people are killing each other. And I just feel like video games is a big part of that.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially, what was that video game that came out where you had to act as though you were the killer in a military scenario, and the more you killed, the better?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, yeah, that was pretty graphic. So you remember those, huh?
Yeah.
I know, I thought they were pretty graphic as well.
And I feel like that has a lot to do with the youth, because a lot of them, that's all they do. They go
So
home
what
and
would
play
you
video
do
games.
to change that scenario?
Well, me, I don't play video games, except for a couple on my phone, but when I have kids, I'm not going to let them play violent games, because I really feel like it messes with your mental, playing games like that, and you're killing people. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you for your comment.
I have a son, he's 11, and he does play video games, and he does play Call of Duty. But I think it's a matter of having a conversation, a very candid conversation to say, this is a video game, this is not life. It is real life, but this is not the life that you need to lead. Guns will kill you. So we've had that conversation, he understands it, and all we can do as parents, our role is to teach our children. And we would hope that once they leave our house, that those principles and morals that we taught them stick. So again, for me in my household, he understands how he's supposed to act. So I think it goes back to going back to the old days, and I'm 35, but I swear I am a grandmother because I still adopt those same attitudes that my grandmother does. You don't say yeah, what? We don't do that in my household. So it starts at home. And if you don't have a solid foundation at home, it's very difficult for that child to relate. Children nowadays are dealing with things that we didn't have to deal with. And it's very difficult for them to be who they are. But we have to continue to encourage them. Let them know that society does not depict who you are and how you should act. Now, specifically about this particular question here, it does come from social media. I also agree that it can come from the video games. But I think we need to ask our young people why they do what they do. What's in their mind? And because we have to meet them where they're at. If we don't know where they're at, we can't help them. So we need to have conversations with our young people and let them know that you can come to me and communicate with me. When you're dealing with a police officer, talk to them about how they should act. You shouldn't be rude to anyone, but we're all human, so if you're rude to me, sometimes our major instinct is to be rude right back. So we have to teach our young men and our young women how to handle themselves accordingly and not let TV raise our children. That's the problem. TV is raising our children right now. I don't listen to the radio. It's 104.1, it's Pandora, and I pick the station because the beats are awesome. I love music, but what they're saying, as Juwan said, is not conducive to raising up some great young people. And my son, he loves this whole Fetty Wap thing, but it's because of the beat. And I said, son, you can't listen to that music. I can get you the instrumental because he's not teaching you. He's not guiding you. He's telling you to go to the trap house and get a trap house queen. That's not what we're doing here. So we have to be the ones to tell our young people, this is the way that you need to go. And if you don't, these are the consequences.
Thank you.
I've looked at these statistics, and what I don't see is this. We live in a society where everything is measured basically in negativity. How many acts of kindness has it ever been registered? Do we know? Does anybody know if there's been 1 million acts of kindness that 18-year-olds have ever experienced? How many babies are born every year? My point is this. When you accentuate the negative, that tends to be what's carried for the day. If you accent the positive, then that is the thing that's carried for the day. And if we reinforce positive in a negative society, the child will be positive. You can't keep putting negative in and expect a kid to be positive. My point is, this society is breeding negativity. As parents, we have to be the filter. As the community, we have to be the filter. We have to say, whatever that is, this is what you need to see. And I really and truly believe that if we begin and really start enforcing more and more positive to our young people in schools, in the community, that they'll become what we nurture them to be. So the whole point of statistics, how many acts of kindness? How many people, just to raise your hand, how many acts of kindness have everybody seen in one day? Raise your hand. You know why I've seen the acts of kindness? Because I perform an act of kindness. So you're telling me by you not raising your hand, you have not performed an act of kindness? You see where I'm going at? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Felicia?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to piggyback on two things. With the violence piece, when I talk to my students and I ask them, I said, why do you all promote the negativity? And they're like, because it's funny. Well, why? The mentality needs to be changed. The thought process needs to be changed. For you to think someone getting beat up, jumped, bullied, harassed, hurt, killed, maimed, whatever, is funny, that's sick. That's a sick thought process. And we need to change that process. And what I've seen, I think this is crazy, but this is my 20th year in education. I know I don't look up there with 25, but this is my 20th year in education, and what I've seen over the years is that our babies don't have coping skills. The coping skills have diminished, their conflict resolution has diminished. When it comes to conflict, they can't talk anything out. Immediately it's, how do we handle this? We're going to fight. And they could be friends. And that's one thing to kind of argue with your friends when you're younger, because you're supposed to do that. but to really go toe to toe, blow to blow, because she said something to me that was so simplistic, or he said this, or he looked at me that way, and your first response is to fight. That's an issue with conflict resolution and being able to cope, because all throughout life, you have to have coping skills. You have to deal with it when you work with adults, with your family, with your friends. They don't have the coping skills, so they react violently. That's their reaction. And to think negative is the way to handle something, to think it's funny, that's a sick thought process, and we need to figure out how to fix that.
Thank you.
I just want to say, when I look at these stats, it says, how do you feel? And my first question is, where are the parents when these teenagers are witnessing these acts of violence? Where is the community? Where is everybody when they see this? Are they just standing by idly and allowing them to see this without explaining it? You know, I agree with my colleagues. We need to change the mentality. We need to enforce positive. But we also need to show them the negatives, the consequences of these acts. I've worked with kids, and I've seen them in jail. I've been to the funeral where a guy blew his head off, and it was a closed casket funeral. And I don't think and one of the panelists said they find it funny, but in addition to that, they don't see the consequences of their actions. You know, I've worked as a lawyer before, and I've defended a lot of kids who've done, frankly, stupid things. And I tell them about the consequences, but sometimes they have to go through that to see it. And what I like doing is, if I'm working with a student who's going through some things, I usually bring in somebody who's been down that path. The kid that's not listened to me, not listened to their parents, and now they're living off the streets, they're going from house to house, they're in jail, they have some type of disease. And I'll bring them in to show this other kid, and mentor this other kid, to show them the consequences if they continue down that course of action. So I think we need to have more programs in schools to enforce these and to bring in these people. And not that I'm advocating this, but I love watching those shows where they bring the teenagers into the jails and they pretend to have the jailmates are roughing them up and yelling at them and the kids are crying, and that sounds terrible, but these kids are learning. If I keep going along, if I keep doing what I'm doing and not paying attention, not listening to people, I'm going to wind up right here. And that's if I'm lucky, I might wind up dead. So we need to make sure our kids are aware of the consequences of their choices. And we need to enforce positivity, but I think it's up to all of us, the parents and the schools, the police department as well. We need to work together. We need to get programs like GREAT, Gang Resistance Education and Training. We had it when I was in middle school. Why don't we have it anymore?
Thank you. Dominique David?
I agree with everybody up here. And education is important because we're doing a lot of disciplining that's leading these students to the prison pipeline. And we need to get back focused on the education and with the 18-year-olds and the youth today, even us as adults, we don't even say good morning. So, we're not even looking at people. So we're starting our day off in a negative when someone says good morning to you and you don't even, acknowledge them. And so we got to look at the negatives, we got to look at the positives, but we are like the example. We are like a mirror to our children. So what they see is what they're going to reflect. And, if we're reflecting negative off on them, that's what they're going to reflect back. And, the video games, the music. I had a conversation with a radio station DJ one time, and I said, you push all this awareness, but then in the next hour, you're playing all the negative music. I said, that's like a double standard. I said, you can't do one thing and expect them to do that and then turn around and play something else and expect them not to listen to it. I said, so we got to figure out how to, educate our kids and our youth and find the positives and learn from the negatives that happen in their life. So,
thank you. I really would like to shift because I don't want to stay stuck on the negative comments or the negative concerns that we have. But I think that as a community leader, what I would really like to see, and I would like to partner with the law enforcement and everything, when we were coming up, and how you could just raise your hands if you remember this. When I was a teenager, we used to have Summer in the Parks. And that was a free concert that you could go to. I grew up in the District of Columbia. You could go to Rock Creek Park, you could go to DuPont Circle, and you had these major artists that were there, and we could dance, and you could sing, and you could have a great time. and everybody went home with no incident. Our youth don't even know how to enjoy themselves that way. I would love for them to be able to experience that. Because at my age, I felt like that's when the good times was happening. You didn't have to pay no bills. You didn't have a car note. All you had to do was just go to school and get good grades and come on home. But we really do need, as a community, we need to find ways that we can come together as educators, as parents, as grandparents, and bring our youth together and allow them to be able to come and just enjoy themselves. That's all they really want. They want to be heard, but they want to enjoy their lives. They don't want to feel like everybody is going to blame them for something. It's not about what the youth is doing, it's about what we're not doing for the youth. If we don't continue to teach them, they will not know what they need to do. So in saying that, I want to move on to the next topic, which is going to be education. I'm a very, very passionate educator. I taught for 14 years, where I taught elementary education, I taught middle school, I taught adult learners, and then I actually became the CEO and founder of my organization, Making the Grade, in which I tutor students. And the biggest hurdle that I find with my students is that by the time they come to me, they have missed so much schooling on certain topics. They are so far behind that it will take at least 2 to 3 years to get them to be proficient. Now, for those who don't understand what proficient means, that's just basic reading skills. We're not talking above average and we're not talking below. We're just saying basic reading skills. The average student that is going into our school systems, whether it's Prince George's County, Montgomery County, the District of Columbia, or Virginia, predominantly when you see special education, it is African American males. They are being forced into special education classes. And the reason being, not because they can't do the work, not because they want to label them with a learning disability. The majority of the time that those students are placed into those areas is behavioral. Dominique, I know your specialty is in special education. Can you elaborate a little bit on that for us tonight?
So I've worked with an organization called the Maryland Disability Law Center, and the organization assists parents who have kids with special needs by referring their cases to attorneys. So I'm one of the lawyers who handles one of the cases. And like Helen said, most of the cases I've worked with students, it's been because of behavior. It's been because of them acting out and them receiving accommodations as a result. And so I think we're rushing too quickly to label the kids as special needs, because when you keep calling the kids special needs and you need special education and all this, that starts to dwell on them, and they start to think they're inferior and they can't live up to the peers. And you know what? They're going to act just like that. So we do have students who legitimately need special services. So I'm not saying that we can't recognize that, but we need to do more assessments to see if this student, if it's a behavior issue that can be resolved by perhaps a mentoring program like Mr. Price works with, or working with other people or professionals, as opposed to just throwing them in a special ed classroom, or in many instances medicating them to the point where they can't even pay attention or can't stay awake to even learn anything. So we need to work more to assess these kids to see what we can do to assist them and how we can tailor their need. How can we use our resources to work with this particular child to see if they do need special education. If they do need special education, they do need these accommodations with IEPs, which are contracts that parents have with the school to show what services the schools have to provide, then we'll provide that. But if it's something that's just behavior, I know when I was growing up, I don't think I was assessed with anything, but I acted out when I was a child, and I didn't have any special, I didn't have any disability. I was just a bad kid, and I needed mentoring. I needed to go to anger management class. I needed people to talk to me about my behavior, and I think that's what happened to me to cause me to kind of shape up my last 2 years of high school and finish. So I think we need to have that conversation with our kids, have that conversations with our counselors, and with our schools to see how do we address these particular issues, as opposed to just labeling as special needs and then pushing the kids off to some class that's not going to do them any good.
Thank you, Dominique. Jamila?
I think it also has to do with the class size. Fifth grade, my son was one of 30 kids in a class, and you have one teacher. So for that child that doesn't pick up that particular topic quickly, children can get lost in the classroom. And that's how they continue to progress and matriculate through school, because no one catches it. Okay, he has a D, it's not failing, so we can go ahead and bump him up to the next grade. So I refuse to let my child get lost, and I have to keep going back to our responsibility as parents. And if you have to be that helicopter parent, be that helicopter parent. I am one. All of his teachers know me. I go to school, I pop up, I have all of their email addresses. We communicate once a week on what's happening. I check his grades. So we have to make sure that our children don't fail, but they have to have a support system. If you can't necessarily do it, maybe grandma or some sort of mentoring program or some sort of organization is there to support you. Children, all they need are just a few words of encouragement, and all they need to know is that somebody is in their corner and they can put forth the effort. If there's no one there pushing them, they will be lazy. Some kids just don't have that drive. We got to be able to push them a little bit forward. So I can't solve the class size issue, but you know, the school systems need to realize you need to stop building these houses and build more schools. I'm in Anne Arundel County, and we have 4 elementary schools in a 3-mile radius. We have 1 middle school. We have no high school. But we have thousands of houses going up. Where are all these kids going to go? Where the schools are overpacked now. So I think that really is the problem, and we need to make sure that parents recognize if your children are failing, you got to have that conversation with the teacher. You got to let the principal know that my child is failing. We need to do something about this. And as a single mother, I may recognize, or any other single parent, you may recognize your child's educational deficiencies, but you can't afford tutoring. You know, you can't afford a good tutoring program. You have Khan Academy, yes, but you know, Common Core is also another issue. So it's a lot of things at play here, but there are opportunities to get your young people the assistance that they need. And 9 times out of 10 is right there in your own community. We just have to make ourselves available for organizational leaders. And as parents, you have to make that phone call. You have to fight for your children.
Thank you, Jamila.
I just want to add that about 10 years ago, I became the PTA president of my daughter's elementary school. And because I was a helicopter parent, I came to the school every day when I had time. And I became so familiar with the school that the principal asked me, would I like to serve on the PTA board? I'd never heard of a PTA board. Isn't that shocking? Let me tell you folks, my experience was this. Being a PTA president for 4 consecutive years, and there was a study done at that time that said that when parents advocated for their children, let me say that again, when parents advocated for their children, those children became the well-mannered, academically children in the school. Not the teacher, not the principal, but when parents. And I have a little story I'd like to tell you, folks. My daughter, who I love so dearly, who was in elementary school, no, she was in high school in Prince George's County. She told me one day, she did really well in school, my daughter. She was like 3.5, and she had one problem for class. She came to me and said, Dad, I said, why are you not doing well in this school? She said, this class. She said, Dad, because I don't like the teacher. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, let me tell you this, sweetheart. I love you, but I didn't send you to school to like the teacher. I sent you to school to get what the teacher has to offer you. That's what you're there for. You don't have to like anybody. And I said, when you get to sheepskin 4 years from now, then you can start disliking and liking whoever you like. But prior to that, I want you to go to school and act like you love that teacher and get what she has to offer you. Because a lot of our children fail because they don't like the teacher. What's that got to do with it? We're sending them there to be academically proud to get what the teacher has to offer. And if parents are there advocating for their children, if they're there joining a PTA, and by the way, when I was a PTA president, the membership of that elementary school went up almost 60% Matter of fact, we got an award for that. Because I told the parents in the back to school meeting, listen, the teacher's not here to babysit. They're not here to babysit. We're here to advocate. You have to be part of this education process. You got to know what your children are doing. We literally turned that school around. So what I'm saying, parents, is this. You got to advocate for the children. Take a, like Ms. Jamila said, go to the school. Sneak up on the kid. See what they're doing. You will be surprised. You won't be shocked, because at the end of the year, when you get a notice saying your child is failing every class because you didn't come to school to see what he was doing. And that happens so often here in this county, and it shouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I want to add, though, to that for you, David, because I know that your organization really works hard with parents and students that are in a broken family, divorce, separation issues, a lot of things that are going on. Can you just tell us how is that really affecting the students' performances in school when they are dealing with their parents splitting up?
I also work in our Prince George's County public school system, and one of our biggest thing is parent engagement, parent involvement. And like Steve said and Jamila, you have to advocate for your child because you're their advocate. I mean, you're their parent, but if you're not doing it, you can't expect somebody else to do it. They're supposed to, but like Helen said, I do work with broken families, families that separate and go through divorce, and sometimes that blocks a parent out of, the school sometimes, and, it's tough because when children are being torn back and forth, and I do a lot of male and father involvement in our school system as well, getting the engagement of men involved, but when you break down that family nucleus and that foundation, and they only have school, and it starts impacting their school, it just puts them in a, downward spiral. And we need more guidance counselors in our schools, especially when you have 700 students in a school and everything that's going on. There needs to be more resources there. And like Jamila said, with the class sizes, I mean, when you have 35 plus kids in a class and you have high level learners, they're going to be fine. You have medium level, they're going to either go up or down. But you have those low learners, they're gone. They're gone. I mean, they just fall behind. Somebody told me this a few years ago when I was at a coma retreat. They said, what is the year that a child drops out? And I'm asking, what year do you think a child drops out of school? They drop out usually at the grade of 3rd grade, because that's when testing kicks in, and that's when they either excel or they fall behind. And I have a son that's graduating from high school this year, and I've been in his education involvement since he was in kindergarten. I enrolled him in kindergarten and was always there, part of the PTA president and all that stuff, like Steve said. And it changes the whole school around. And I have a younger son that's over there that's in 5th grade, and he probably didn't want me to point him out, but I am. And I am always on him about reading. Reading is the fundamental of learning now. You have to know how to read just to do the math problems these days because of the Common Core. And I'm not saying Common Core is good, because it is really not making any common sense. But I think they're going to stick with it for right now, so you're going to either have to...
So you're going to have to chuck it up, David, because it's going to be there, and it's going to take at least 10 years for them to give a full evaluation of whether or not the Common Core works before the next president or the next person comes in and decides they want to change it all over again. But I want to kind of interject a little bit for time's sake, is that what do we do about these parents who work? We got parents who are single parents in our schools who don't have paid sick leave, who don't have leave. They can't be that helicopter parent. They are wanting to be engaged with their students. So many different things are coming up against them. How do we actually deal with that in our community? Because it is real talk here.
I was going to add that it would be wonderful if in the utopia we had 100% parental involvement, because the people we're speaking to tonight are not the people we need to be talking to. to be honest. Having been a school counselor for 15 years, the issue is parental involvement, and I know the reality of it is, I don't expect you to come into the building when you work 2 jobs. If you can't speak English, if you're scared of being deported, if you had a bad school experience yourself, if you don't know your child's teacher, that is not even my expectation. But what I do expect is if you can't come in the building, can we do a phone conference? You know, what day are you off? How can we accommodate your needs? What can we do to have that kind of communication? Can you email the teachers? Can you call the teachers? We don't need you physically in the building. We need to work with you. We need to figure out where we can meet you where you are. I tell the story frequently. I had an experience years ago when I needed to have my glass replaced in my car. So, you know, Safe Light comes out, they, you know, come to you wherever you are and come replace the glass. So the guy was out replacing my glass in the car, and I said, oh, well, just come on in the building, you know, I can pay you. He said, I can't come in the building. I said, oh, okay, well, I'll come to the parking lot then. So I said, why can you come in the building? He said, I had such a horrible experience in school, I will not step foot in a school building. You don't know where people are, and we have to meet them where they are. So no, we're not, we have 850 students where I am. I have 350 students, 358 graders. And I can pretty much tell you what's going on with that one, what's happening here, what needs to happen with this one, why we need to do this, why is he acting this way, come on in my office, whatever. But it takes the village in the school, because the village may not be outside of the school. So unfortunately, we have to meet people where they are, and that's just the reality of what the times that we're living in.
And I just want to add on top of that. First, let me say that I'm glad that that question came up because that is definitely a crucial concern and question that, you know, that's around and that's been around for a while. I know that there are people that I know both personally and just through experience who have parents who are, you know, single and maybe work 2 or 3 different jobs and don't have the opportunity to really be involved as they want to be with their child's life as far as academics. A couple of things. Well, I'm going to first say that, you know, a lot of these questions are not just cut and dry questions. You know, they're very complex, and there are multiple solutions and, you know, different parts and components made up of it. But normally when I look at an issue like that or a big issue, I try to, on my part, look at things that I can do hopefully tomorrow or, you know, or today. And I would love to see, like what Mr. David mentioned earlier, he mentioned more counselors. I think that it's crucial that we have more counselors to really serve as support. I would also look at or try to help look at different options or other solutions that we can try to implement where we can get the schools trying to reach out more to the parents if there are, you know, certain cases where that parent can't reach out. I think that if we do more on our part as far as a school system and making sure that we're also reaching out, you know, to parents that definitely are, you know, having a hard time to reach out, then I think that that could be one of the ways in which we can try to tackle this problem. Again, I am optimistic, and I believe that we will and can find solutions to address this daunting issue.
Thank you, Jawan. I wanted to add one other thing to this, is that we all understand that mentoring is very, very important to every student, both male and females. And I have a very special guest here that's standing behind me, the CEO and founder of 13th Man, Mr. Devon Kelly. And I would like for him just to elaborate, what are some of the things that he's experiencing when he's mentoring these youth in order to be able to give them the positive things that they need, the feedback, the encouragement, the wording, everything that they would need in order for whatever is happening in their lives to be turned around. Mr. Kelly?
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and really listen to the great panel that you have up in front of you, right? So one of the things that we're always doing is trying to learn how we can grow our organization, which is the 13th Man. So let me give you a little bit of background about the 13th Man. The 13th Man was started because of a vision that I had because of athletics. I've always been a part of athletics, and I've always been afforded the opportunity because of athletics to be able to travel the world, be able to sit in meetings that other kids weren't afforded to be just because I was good in sports. So we started the 13th Man being a mentorship for that young man who wasn't able to make the team, right? So basketball is my background, and usually there are 12 individuals to a team. So what happens to the guy who just didn't make the team, right? The 13th man. And therefore that summer, he's not afforded the opportunity to go off and travel like myself was able to do. My parents couldn't afford it, to go off and travel to hotels, see cities otherwise wouldn't. You didn't have the mentoring of the coaches. You didn't have the mentoring of other adults around you. So what happens to him? So we founded the foundation to help those young men not only become better students to do something that they can thrive in, but also to help young men to be better athletes, to be perfectly honest, to help them with one-on-one training to become that. And so that's where this vision took off. Part of what I listened to on the panel, I don't think I heard anything that I disagreed with. But one of the things that we try to strive within the 13th Man, and one of the things that is heavy on our mentorship program, is a lot of the young men always ask, well, why me? Right? And so if you come over to our board, you'll see, we ask, why me? Then we ask, why now? And then we say, why not? So why can't you survive, or why can't you thrive today? Why do you have to wait for a year? Why do you have to wait till you turn 18 to thrive? I've also spoken to a few people who are entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've been at one for about 15 years now. So why do you have to wait then? So every time that we have a session, we have all the young men stayed up and says, why me? Why now? Why not? And so when you start with simple terminology like that, all of a sudden, as I heard on the panel earlier, that you start off your day right? So I wake up in the morning and the first thing I go, okay, well, I gotta go work. And I go, why me, why now? And I go, why not, right? And that's how I start my day off. When I was a kid, my mom used to tell me that if I woke up in the morning and I couldn't smile, then, chances are that day was gonna be bad because it didn't get any better than that, right? So these are positive messages that I heard on the panel that talked about what you can do to start that day off. I can't strive enough on how the parents play a pivotal role, or adults play a pivotal role in the mentoring and the maturation of young men. But that's not always available. So there's organizations like mine, the 13th Man, who offer assistance. We cannot be a replacement. I must thrive on that. We are not a replacement for the leadership and for the counseling that the parents and adults in those young men's lives happen. But we can be a crutch. Right? And you should utilize these crutches that are out here. These guys and these panel people that are up here today, they've given you opportunity to speak with them, I'm sure after that, that can give you opportunities that maybe help you in dealing with young men, dealing with young women that you may otherwise not be fond of. We were, me and a young man over here, Keith, who works with me, we were laughing at about the video games and the Call of Duty. I'm 47, I still play Call of Duty, right? So I kind of laughed and said, well, I'm not out there, but I do know the game. It is a pretty good game. So again, but I think the point to that was that you have to have a conversation with that young man or young lady to understand that that's a video game, right? You don't get to hit restart in life, right? You don't get to hit the button and say, hey, I messed up. And that's important to go. But I think part of all of mentoring in, so you have all these organizations out here that are walking through, the biggest thing that I would stress on that is communication. You have to be able to talk to the young men, talk to the young women, and at the end of the day, be responsive to what they do. Now, I hear a lot when we're standing up here about old school and hanging out at the park, and I'm about that age, the same way where I used to hang out at the park. It all started with communication, right? And one of the events that we have during the summer is our summer classic, and we had some police officers come, we had some detectives. And if you remember, it was this summer that a lot of the killings were happening, so it was pivotal on how you actually deal with conflict resolution. How do you handle that, right? And so we had some detectives do some role playing from Baltimore and how that works. And it was really interesting to see how they reacted. And they already knew what the outcome was going to be, right? But all they did was say, hey, you can talk your way out of things so it doesn't escalate to that, right? And then the message was that you can also talk your way into things, right? So one of the things that we do is we talk about college, right? So we talk about here's what we're doing and here's what you're going to do. But I'm a believer of vision boards, right? You look at something every day, it becomes part of your mentality when you're growing up. So we always we did a visionary session where everyone grabbed magazines and you cut out these pictures, and everyone had a picture of Beyonce and a Maserati and all these other young men. And I get it, I would have done the same thing. But nobody picked a picture of a university. Right? Nobody picked a picture of a university, and we specifically had magazines on the university. So why is that? Because I believe that we don't emphasize it enough, right? We don't hear about it enough. So what we're trying to do is not make someone go down the path of college, make someone do what they're doing, but open up their minds that, hey, this is a visionary that you can do. So that's what mentoring is to me. I've told these young men that I've been in that seat where you sit there and go, oh man, I can't believe I'm sitting here listening to us again. But if you say it often enough and you start listening, you go, hey, I want to be something different. I want to be someone different. I don't want to be the statistic that everyone drove me to be. I grew up here in the county back in the early 80s and things when people look at it and say, I wouldn't have been here at 47. I mean, I heard it every day. And if I am here, I would have been working for the U.S. federal government, right? So I'm not that statistic that they used to tell us about. And so we try to convince them of that. And then if you say it every day and you repeat after that, you know, when you go, why me? And then you go, why not? And then you go, why not? And that's what we say every day. So again, I believe that everyone can listen and learn. You don't have to be a young man or a young woman to be in the audience, because it's you guys that are out here that if you know some young men, you should communicate the messages that you heard today to them. That's just as good as going into a mentoring class. That's just as good as bringing them to the 13th man. You guys are the people who actually share that message. So again, you would love to have young people, a lot more young people here today, but now you become our voice, right? You walk out of here with our voice. And if that's happening, then you become mentors yourself, and you become the extension of an organization like mine, like the 13th Man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those sentiments. They are very, very heartfelt, and we are in an environment where everything that you had to say is going to filter right into where the whole purpose is here. So the next thing that I want to come to, and we're going to just have this one to be as our final topic for this evening as we're coming to a close, because we are expecting some unfortunate inclement weather, but I want to actually get this back to Major Alexander. There is a program that is available right now for our youth to participate in, and I don't know all of the details, so I'm about to be educated myself, but I do understand that it's a two-part program, one meaning for the youth, and the other one being for the adults. So at the end of the program tonight, I encourage you to talk with our law enforcement that is present. Thank you guys for being here. And find out about the program that we can get involved in as adults so that we can better teach our children how to be respectful, how to be leaders, how to be able to not get themselves caught up into something negative. Please.
Sure. I think for the adult program, you're talking about the Citizens Police Academy. Is that what you're referencing?
We got to go through the training, and,
yes, ma'am.
And everybody says it's fun at the end.
It is fun.
We get to shoot guns?
Well, they let you shoot pretend guns.
Oh, okay. Okay, y'all, we can legally do that now, all right?
The first program is actually the Explorer program, which is geared towards youth in Prince George's County who have an interest in law enforcement or public safety. Generally, the starting age is 14. The student in question has to have at least a 2.0 grade average, and they obviously have to have expressed some interest in doing something related to public safety or law enforcement. And if anyone here tonight is interested or knows someone who might be interested, we would love to connect with the youth here or elsewhere. Corporal Bedinger, who is over here on the side, is an expert in all things Explorers. He will be happy to take your name, your email, your phone number, and connect you, either if you live here in District 1 with our troop, or if you live somewhere else in the county, connect you with the troop with that respective district. There actually is a middle group, or the Youth Citizens Police Academy, which deals with people that you generally are 18 to, say, 25. And it's an abbreviated Citizens Police Academy where youth can sort of interact and interface with the law enforcement organization and come to understand why it is police officers do some of the things that we do. And we've actually found, we put on 2 of the Youth Citizen Police Academies already, that we learn just as much from the youth as they learn from us. Particularly the way they view things, the way they perceive things, and giving us some feedback in ways that we can moderate our approach sometimes to alleviate potential problems. And then what she's referencing really for any adult who's interested is the Citizens Police Academy. It's a 12-week program. It's basically a miniature police academy where you get to experience and talk with investigators and officers from all across the department, everything from forensic investigations to how and why officers do patrol stops, how they interface with the people, the DNA evidence. You talk with someone from domestic violence, you talk with someone from sexual crimes, homicide. Every single facet of the organization comes in and talks to you and sort of explains to you the background and the reasoning behind how and why the police department does something. So again, if anyone here is interested in that, please talk with me after and I'll take your information and I'll connect you with the Training Academy resource who puts that class on. And we actually have one coming up, which I believe is starting next month. So if you have some interest, there's one coming up really fast.
Thank you. I think I'm getting ready to have a career change. CSI, here I come.
And I'd like to add, folks, after this is over, do yourself a favor. Talk to these wonderful, knowledgeable people up here about programs. There's so many programs in the county. I've been very fortunate as a mentor to been involved for over 100 organizations in this county that we were partnered with when I was the membership director of Millennium High. And they're still going on. If you have a child or a young man, you know somebody that's interested in law, there's a program that's called a Law Institute. And what they take is young people to Southern Illinois University, all expenses paid. They introduce them to the lawyers, judges, clerks, and they help them to be lawyers. Last year and a half ago, we have a young man named Stephen Thompson, who's now at North Carolina State University, who had the opportunity, wanted to be a lawyer, and I got him to get in that program just by, I signed a recommendation for him and sent it. He got to be one of the Supreme Court justices. He also got to be a friend of mine who's a federal judge in Alexandria, sits on the 6th Circuit Court. And they're always looking for young people to be lawyers. If you have a young person that's interested in medical field, in engineering, there's so many programs. Just please come and talk to us and we can direct you to that, because there's so many programs available to us, to you young people and parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the panelists at this time?
Hi, I'm Amina Ali. I'm a board member and parent of a teenage girl who is in an amazing program called Bernadette's House. I don't really have a question. I enjoyed the panel. Everybody's comments was right on point. But I do want to say that it's critical that we bring the village back. We can't rely 100% on the schools. Unfortunately, we can't even rely 100% on the parents all of the time. So being a part of a community that wants to see, be a part and facilitate the change that we want to see is so important. I took my daughter to Bernadette's house. I needed something for her to be involved with outside of after-school program. You know, she was going between middle school and high school. Bernadette's house actually mentors young girls, teaches them how to believe, dream, and soar, teaches them life skills, critical thinking, sisterhood, all of those things. And there are quite a few programs out there, but I just think it's important to challenge every person that's here. I was a little dismayed to see how few of our young people are here, how few people, period, are here. I asked my daughter, did you hear about this in school? We don't live that far. We live in Laurel. She goes to Laurel High School. I just happened to be walking through, and she actually spoke with Carol, who's the CEO, who I just spoke with. So I'm glad that I'm here. Everything happened for a reason. But I just want to ask and just challenge every person that when you leave here, each one reach one. I can't save the world, but I can save one or two, or whoever I can get to listen everywhere I go. That's how I came back. I stopped and I saw what was going on, and I said, oh, well, I'm part of Bernadette's house, and all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I know Carol. You know, everywhere I go, I'm promoting this because I tell my kids all the time, I'm going to be old one day. What's going to happen if everybody decides when they go to school that they don't want to learn, they don't want to do anything, they don't want to go to college? Who's going to be my doctor? Who's going to be your doctor? My kids, I have, who's going to be your doctor? Who's going to be your lawyer? Who's going to be your police officers if everybody decides that they don't want to maximize their potential up here? So you really have to get them to start thinking critically. That's, you know, my position, and so I have to get out there. I join the board. I go up to the schools. Everywhere I go, I'm talking about mentorship because it doesn't just require a program. It doesn't just require an organization. Each of us have that responsibility if we want to see true change in our future. So I'm going to leave some cards. I'm under the weather. I made it back. I'm glad that I did. I'm happy to see you. But I really appreciate you. I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate everybody that's here because we all make the difference together.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the compliment. Much love to you. Yes, Dominique?
You know, none of us would be here without the kids. So I see several kids and teenagers and people who look like kids in the audience. So do any of the kids want to come up and sit and either ask a question or say something, or Do you have any accomplishments? We've been talking about so many negatives, it'd be nice to hear about some positives. So, do any of the kids have anything to come up and ask a question? I promise we don't bite, so don't be coyers here.
An achievement that and my brother earned is that we do Legos thanks to our mom. She does a business program called Engineering Minds. I can program NXT robots, EV3 robots. I can build software, and I can do many of things because of her program.
Yes, awesome. That is fantastic. Mom, kudos to you for actually stepping out there and having your son in part of engineering. Definitely. On average, right about now, that is a high field. I believe right now with a bachelor's degree, the engineering starts off at $50 an hour. That's starting off entry level. So imagine if you really are on your game, you could be making a lot of money. Young man, come to the mic.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah. I am 12 years old and in the 7th grade. Engineering has kind of been a big part of my life, so it's probably one of the only things that I kind of strive for. I've been trying to I'm trying to work my way to the top, trying to get to MIT, trying to get some college credit hours, to try to excel myself forward. So I've been a part of NESB and CPROACH, which is ROB, Robotic Operational Vehicle. Basically a drone that can go underwater, and it's it's really fun, it's engaging. And then I'm also part of the National Society of Black Engineers.
All right. Congratulations. Awesome.
So we're kind of working on some things, and I have to focus on the mechanics of all this stuff and trying to take care of make sure all the operating systems are working. My brother is all the program techno stuff. I'm more of the guy who just builds things and designs and keep trying to get some. When I get something done, when I'm trying to get something done, I will find a way.
Jeremiah, I want to say congratulations to you, and also it will be to your best interest to speak to some of these panelists, because they may have some opportunities where it can help your mom with some funding or financials to help you actually finish your career at MIT. So congratulations to you.
So one thing I wanted to add is that, we talk, I guess, a lot of negative tonight, but we have some young people doing some phenomenal things. We're so busy looking at negative, we forget that the majority of the babies are doing the right thing. They really are. They're doing some phenomenal things, and these young men here are proof that that's happening, and I see it every day. So we need to kind of look at the positive too, take a positive spin with our young people. And I say babies because even when they're 30 and 40, they're still our babies. So that's what it is.
Well, I want to just say thank you to all of my guests tonight, and especially to all of the individuals who have helped me with this summit. It was definitely an eye-opener. It was a lot of long nights. It was a lot of early days. And I just am so grateful that I was able to bring this forth for the community. My panelists, you were totally awesome. You guys rock beyond belief. I am so grateful to know you and all the fantastic things that you're doing. So we're going to take this opportunity to just kind of meet and greet everyone. But I want to especially just say a huge shout out and thank you to Mr. Zane Marshall, if he could come up to me or just wave his hand. Zane, thank you so much. He was so instrumental. And Stephen, is he here? Stephen, I want to thank you also for all of your efforts. I thank all of my guests tonight. Please drive careful and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.